This is the first of a set of 5 videos recording my first ever PC build. Unlike some videos, I've covered all the details of the build, from the unboxing of each component right through to the cabling up and to the power on. See the video notes for details of the timing and content for each video. There's also a 6th video showing the rookie mistake that I made during the build and how I managed to fix it without dismantling everything. If you watch all the videos, see if you can spot the mistake before you reach video number 6. The objective was to build a PC to form the basis of a flight simulator that will need to drive multiple displays. It should also make a good gaming PC. I started with a mid to high range gaming PC from one of the part picker websites, and then I swapped out some parts. My strategy was to limit the budget a little bit by avoiding the very top of the range components where the cost becomes disproportionate to the gain in performance, but still build a high performing PC. Some of the commentary was recorded during the build, but in places I've added commentary later with the benefit of hindsight. The basis is a Intel Core i7 CPU. It's 9th generation, so I didn't go for the i9 or the latest 10th generation. Compatible motherboard, Z390. Need to be careful if you get the 10th generation that you need the Z490 and it's not backwards compatible. This is a compatible motherboard. Graphics processor GeForce 2080, which is reasonably high performance, should be good for what I want. I decided to, for this first build, go for just air-cooled and not try to install a liquid-cooled solution. So I've got an air-cooled CPU, Hyper 212 Evo, and not planning to put in any liquid cooling at this point. I hope that's okay. And then I think this power supply, 750 watt power supply, should be easily good enough for this with a little bit of spare capacity. Then I've got 2 times 16 gigabytes of RAM, and then an SSDA 500 gigabyte drive, a 4 terabyte Western Digital hard disk, and I've also got an additional LAN Ethernet card because I think the board only has one LAN, and maybe for the flight simulator I might want more than one. I couldn't get the tower that I wanted. I actually got quite a cheap mid-tower case, thermal take. It's under $50. So I'll try with that first of all and see if that works out. All up here in Japan this cost around about $2,000 but I think in the US, if I could have bought it there, it probably would have been more around $1,500 mark. So based on what I've read, my plan, the order of the build is this. So I start with the motherboard, install the CPU, then the backplate for the CPU fan and the memory. Then I can install the motherboard into the tower, followed by the power supply, then the processor, graphics processor, and the drives, and then tidy up all the cables. Sounds easy. Let's see how we go. Okay, following our plan, the first thing we're going to do is fit the CPU into the motherboard. Should put the wristband on. Okay, let's see what we get with the motherboard. So inside the box we have the motherboard, The motherboard came with two SATA data cables that I used for the 2 disk drives and a CD containing drivers. I didn't need to use anything from the CD in the end. There's also a separate cover for the I/O and a manual that was completely in Japanese, so I downloaded the English version. The cover is not fitted, fits on afterwards. To fit the CPU, we need to open the cover. When you open and close the lever, you have to support the board because it takes quite a lot of force to move the lever and to fit it back in position. And it opens. And then find the little slots in the side. And then align them with the slots on the socket. Should just drop in. No force needed. And replace the cover. Make sure that the metal piece goes underneath this nut. And then replace the lever and the top should just pop off. Next we want to install the backplate for the CPU fan. CPU fan comes with a variety of different parts to suit different boards. You need to check the instructions to see which parts are needed for your board. Backplate here. And any instructions? Yes. I think these are brackets for an additional fan that could go on the other side. We probably don't need. This will hold the fan in place, get attached to the backplate. Some thermal compound. And the instructions seem to be out of order to me. Step 1 showed installation of the heatsink onto the CPU, but we need to start at step 4, which is the backplate mounting. From the instructions, work out which set of screws are needed. The ones with the longer thread through the spacer, so I'll put all those through the spacer, and then these will go through the top of the board. This will be underneath the board like that, through the top of the board in the center hole, and then put the nut on. Would be like that. So let's try that. This one. bolts didn't go easily through the holes here because the first bolt had slipped from the center to a different hole. Screw all the nuts on finger tight at first. There's the sockets to tighten them. Once you have them all finger tight so they won't slip, you can lay the board flat and tighten them up. Tighten opposite corners according to the instructions.